Cleveland Mayor Tom Rowland. Mayor Rowland, first of all, good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning to you, Chip. Good to have you. Good for you. Thank you for having me this morning.
Yes, sir. It's certainly a sad story about the Reverend Billy Graham, but I know you got to spend a lot of time with him over the years. Can you fill us in on that a little bit?
Yes, Cleveland has a long connection with Billy Graham. You know, he went to school here when Lee University was Bob Jones College. And we have named 15th Street that goes through the Lee University campus as Billy Graham Avenue. At 1:15 today, we'll be draping those signs with black drapes in his memory. But yes, the first time I met Mr. Graham was at the Crusade in Knoxville. And as a radio broadcaster, interviewed he and Ethel Waters, who were there for the Crusade at Neyland Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And my family and I have had a long connection with the Graham family since then, especially his daughter, Gigi Graham, who came to Cleveland in 2011 when we dedicated Billy Graham Avenue. Interesting thing is, she said that her dad had asked her to do three things: take pictures of the First Presbyterian Church downtown where he worshiped while he was a student, take a picture of the old Parks Belt store in downtown Cleveland where he sold shoes and got fired from, and also his dormitory in Medlin Hall on North Ocoee Street. Now, no one really knew which room he was in when he was a student.
Mm-hmm.
He gave her a very vivid description how to get there. Go up the steps on the right side of the building, go to the second landing, turn left, and go to the second door on the left. And we think we found his room.
Is there a particular story of your time that you spent with the Reverend Graham that stands out in your mind?
The last time I was close to Mr. Graham was at the Cove near Asheville at the wedding of his daughter, Gigi.
Mm-hmm.
He was there to give the daughter away at the wedding ceremony. He was in a wheelchair. His voice was very forceful. I got to spend a few moments with him there, and also Cliff Barrows, who went to school here for 4 years, not just one semester like Mr. Graham. And so we reflected on Cleveland. Both of them knew a lot about the names of the prominent people in our city, and we reflected on some of their memories when they were both living here. Interesting to note that Dr. Paul Kahn's office at Lee, he's the president of the school, was the same office that Dr. Bob Jones had when it's Bob Jones College. And Dr. Kahn likes to tell the story when you're in his office that where you're sitting is likely where Billy Graham sat when he got kicked out of school. The story is that as a 19-year-old charismatic individual, the students selected him to speak to Dr. Jones about relaxing some of the rules. Very strict rules. They couldn't date, had to be in at certain times, and so on. So he approached Dr. Kahn and said, "We'd like for you to relax some of the rules." And it sort of got under his skin. He said, "Young man," and pointed his finger at him, "if you don't like it here, you can leave. You'll never amount to anything but a backwoods Baptist preacher." So then he left after that, and he went to Florida and finished his education. But a lot of memories of him in Cleveland. He preached his first sermon ever as a 19-year-old student at the Methodist Church in Charleston. He preached his second sermon ever, still a 19-year-old student, at the Antioch Baptist Church in southern Bradley County. So we can see the streets where Billy Graham walked. And one thing Billy Graham told me, he says, "Don't call me Dr. Graham. All my doctorate degrees are honorary, and it takes away from those who actually earn their degree." He also said, "I really hate to be called Reverend. I'm just plain Billy Graham."
Just plain Billy Graham.
Yes, one of the most profound statements I ever heard him say was that someday the news reports will say, "Billy Graham has died." He said that won't be true. Billy Graham has only moved to another location.
I understand you're speaking to one of the civic groups up in Bradley County a little bit later on today, and you're going to be talking about the Reverend Graham and your experiences with him. Is that correct?
Yes, I'll be speaking to the Civitan Club at noon today, and it's generally a canned speech about our city. But talking to some of the Civitans, we're going to scrap that and just reflect on Billy Graham's life while he was in our area.
Couple of things to pass along to you very quickly, Mayor Rowland. Back in 1950, Mose and Garrison Siskin here, of course, Siskin Foundation, Siskin Steel, many of the buildings here in town still carry their name. They built the Warner Park Field House at Warner Park specifically for the 1950 Billy Graham Crusade that stopped right here in Chattanooga. And I'll give you a little bit later on where you can find an interview of Luther Massengale talking about his time with Billy Graham. Billy actually stopped him at the Warner Park and said, "Hey, I love that Model T you're driving. Can you give me a lift down to the Patton Hotel?" And of course, Luther chauffeured Billy Graham and George Beverly Shea down to the hotel, and you ought to hear him talk about that. It is a scream. A sad day, but nonetheless some very happy memories of the Reverend Billy Graham. And Mayor Tom Rowland, we thank you for your service to the Bradley County and surrounding areas, and thank you for spending some time with us.
Thank you, Chip. Enjoy being with you today.
Enjoy talking with you as always. Hang in there with us. We have more of Let's Chat coming up after this.